What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Oh man, we got to work on that editing over there. I tell you what, the cutoff is hard. I'm sure if you're listening, it's a hard cut. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for pulling into the garage tonight, hopping in the van, and seeing where we go. As you all know, we'll be sending our radio waves here out into the ever-expanding cosmos, as we've been told. So depending on where you're at here, or at another time, perhaps you're listening to this in the future, we welcome you. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight. So let's get going here. I'd like to, first of all, welcome those that are in the chat. It looks like we have the legendary Chad Smith. The man's everywhere. We know, ladies and gentlemen. We got 509 Defined Pines. T-Waz, thank you very much for coming and hanging out tonight. Oh man, I feel like I'm going to murder your name. Is it J.M.E. Patton? J.M.E. Patton, thank you. And they say, party, 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 party. Man, you are ready to party hard already for this evening here. I'll tell you what. And it looks like we also got the UFO Garage in here. That'd be me. Then Christina Bell, welcome. Thank you for coming in. As you guys know, we will be hanging out. Hey, we got the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters. That's Wayne and his wife, Michelle, over there in their podcast. You guys go check them out. They're in here hanging out with us tonight, and they're ready to go. We got Smokin' Joe. He is Chad Smith. Chad Smith seems to be everywhere. I'd also like to say a very big welcome to Joe. Oh man, I've never said your last name, and I just realized I had to say it. Is it Streleski? Bro, I know I murdered that. Sup, fool? Tell you what, brother, it's your birthday. So happy birthday. I'll tell you that right now. I want to thank you for hopping here on your birthday. And congratulations for another year around the sun here. So, guys, with me, as I've mentioned for the last week or so, I have Jess Rogue with the Rogue Report from Fringe FM. So let's talk about her for just a second and give you guys a little bit of a small glimpse into who and what she is, which is always so hard to do. When people mention a bio, I'm like, how do you encapsulate the total sum of somebody in a few small words? But we're going to give it our best shot here. Throughout her life, Jess has been researching fringe topics and even questioning the nature of reality itself. From a young age, she developed a fascination with the fringe, which as a teen expanded into the world of conspiracies. Her undying drive to learn and know more, combined with her desire to share information with others, led to her to pursue a degree in broadcast journalism and television. While she decided against pursuing a career in the mainstream news, Jess was able to take this knowledge and experience to redirect it to the topics she finds most important. She has dedicated the majority of her life to researching the hidden facts behind alternative topics, allowing her to stay on top of the latest news and crucial topics in the fringe community. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to bring her in and kind of talk about some of this. You know, she's got some different topics she mentions here. She says, I'm fascinated by a variety of topics ranging from, but not limited to, I always love when I say not limited to, conspiracy theories, research, consciousness, remote viewing, history, timelessness, psychological operations, simulation theory, spies. We don't get that one on there a lot, but heck yeah, spies, intelligence, artificial intelligence, oh crap, geopolitics, technology, defense, and history. So I'd say we got quite a bit to talk about and get her perspective on things tonight. Also, I just want to mention really quick, you can check her out at the Fringe FM. I'm going to bring her in to talk about the actual days you can catch her on exactly, but I do have a link to all of this in the description. So if you're watching us back lately or, currently, you'll be able to scroll down there. There'll be links to both her website as well as the Fringe FM. And I believe I might even throw up her YouTube channels on there as well. Also, guys, keep an eye out. Next weekend, I will have the one and only Christina Gomez. So come hang out for that episode. I'm excited to bring her in, as you all know about her. And one last thing I'd like to mention before I bring in the incredible Jess Rogue here, and that is Manscaped. Guys, let's at least talk about it for 2 seconds. Manscaped, look at this, guys. Cleared for takeoff. Are you kidding me? Your balls will thank you is what it says. Ben, I got to tell you, this looks great. I think it's going to be great. And for those that are wondering, it is UFO Garage, all capitalized. That is the promo code for Manscaped. So I think that's about it. I'll throw that up on the bottom here. And without anything else to add, you guys, don't forget, take care of those family jewels, all right? Let's bring on Jess Rogue. And I got to say, guys, I mean, this may or may not be true. I'll let you guys decide. I've been taking voice lessons from her because if you guys want somebody who actually has a radio voice, that's Jess Rogue. I'll tell you what, Rogue. I don't know why I said Jess Rogue. Maybe she is Rogue. Let's see what happens tonight. Jess, welcome to the show. What's shaking?
What's up? Thank you for having me, and thank you for the wonderful intro. I don't know how I can follow a ball shaving commercial.
Well, listen, hey, it's not just for the men. I'll tell you what, the ladies can use that too. It is irregardless. It does not care. The gender spectrum does not exist to it. It simply is here to service. So we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
But yeah. So first of all, I do have to ask, what did you think when you got a message from me reaching out to me like, hey, my name's Will, and do you want to come hang out in a van in my garage?
But here's the thing, Will. Here's the thing. So I get a message from him maybe 2 weeks or a week after I was on Alien Girls podcast, and he goes, "You might not know who I am." And then I was like, I thought I just talked to this dude like 2 weeks ago. Like either I'm crazy or he's crazy. So I go back to YouTube and I check Alien Girls video and I was like, no, it's the same guy. So I'm like,
it's 100% me.
I was like, how could I literally just talked to you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. If it was a long week, the hours, the days blend together. I don't know what it was, but I definitely sent that.
I also thought perhaps you didn't remember that you spoke to me.
That's probably I'm out talking to so many people, that I just can't keep track of them anymore. Yeah, once you sent that, and then it dawned on me, I'm like, oh no, we definitely talked.
Like, see, you're like, were you just cold calling me? You're like, hey, there's a UFO chick. I'm just gonna send her.
No, we did. I did. I don't know why. I think I had sent something similar-ish to a previous person, and I probably used that draft, and I forgot to erase that part because I knew I talked to you. Like we had actually talked. Exactly.
We spoke for a little while too.
I know.
And then I got a form letter. Form letters from BigWilly.
But either way, it led to us here. It led to tonight. Yes. It led to Black Dragon hopping in and saying, hello, beautiful people. Hello to you. Thank you for being here. So, it's funny, too, because when we first got talking about it and I'd seen you on Alien Girl, I was like, okay. So, and I caught kind of the tail end of it. I remember that. I remember I was only catching maybe 10, 15 minutes before I hopped on with you guys. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, so she's like a UFO reporter, right? And I kind of thought that was like your gig or your niche. And then I started looking into it a little more, and you got actually talking, and I was like, oh, whoa, she's doing a lot more than this. Which I'm not taking anything away from the UFO topic. We're all about UFOs here, but
for sure,
there's so much more, and it is very broad, and there's a lot going on in the world. So for you, why don't you tell me also what you have coming up and anything I might have missed about letting people know where they could find you. Let's get that out of the way first.
Well, let's I guess we'll start with that. So you can find me live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific on the Fringe FM, which is also on the TalkStream Live app, the Paranormal Radio app, and we also have the Fringe FM app. I also do the news 5 nights a week there, and it plays throughout the day. So you can catch my broadcast between shows and during commercial breaks. And on there, I cover fringe topics. Lately, I've been covering a lot of defense stuff, a lot of technology stuff, a lot of AI stuff. Just, so people kind of know what's going on. That's how I feel like my role is as the news broadcaster for the station.
Very nice. And did you say is that every Wednesday night then or no?
So every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, I have my show, The Rogue Report, which is an hour-long show. And sometimes I have guests. Sometimes I just roll solo and do an hour-long rant, which is fun too,
Yeah.
Upcoming. So I guess, what we're talking about too is that like Jess doesn't just do UFOs, guys. So coming up next week, or I guess I'm recording it next Thursday, but Tommy Chong is coming on the show.
Oh, snap. Are you
excited? Yes. Tommy Chong. I am so excited. I didn't believe, I emailed him and I didn't think I'd get a response. So it was one of those and you're like,
oh, crap, I got to get prepared.
No, yeah. So it's been the best research ever. I've been watching Cheech and Chong movies. Nice. I've been reading Chong's book. It's like so chill. I'm going to watch a Cheech and Chong movie probably tonight.
That's the way to do it. To be fair, I've got to disclose that about myself. I've seen clips of all the movies, right? But I've never actually sat down and watched one. Now that I think about it.
They're like from a time, and even though it even says like, there's even a warning before you watch them. It's like culturally like insensitive for this time period, like some kind of warning like that. And you watch it and it's like looking into like this picture of like, I don't know, like the 70s, the 80s, and you're like, whoa, was it that crazy? That's what I want to know. I'm going to ask Chong. But not only that, I reached out to another gentleman that I really wanted to talk to. Like, this is one of my bucket list guests. Chong is as well. But I reached out to David Icke. And David Icke's coming on my show like 3 days after Chong. So I have a busy 2 weeks.
Nice. Yeah, because I was listening to your show on Wednesday night, and I was kind of, as you know, you had the issues. You were there facing it, and it was kind of jumping in and out. But I thought you'd mentioned something about that night you were having him on. Was he supposed to be on? You had to reschedule or something?
No. I have Ike scheduled for, I'm doing a pre-recorded interview because he wants to do pre-recorded. And I'm like, okay, you want to do pre-recorded? Whatever you want, man. Whatever time, I'm there. I don't care. So we're pre-recording on the 11th, but I'm going to be playing Chong's interview on the 13th, and that'll be premiering live in the station. So we will also have the Discord open that evening. And then 2 weeks later, on the 27th, we're going to be premiering the David Icke interview live on the Fringe FM at 6 p.m. Pacific on the 27th.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with the Divine Pines here. He says, wow, Jess, that's a good 2 guests. Many 100%s there. That could be 1,000.
I know.
Congratulations.
It's nuts because they happened like almost simultaneously. It was like boom, boom. And I was so excited about Ike. I had Ike scheduled. Then Chong was like, yes, I'll do it on the 7th. And I was like, yes, you will. I don't care. Whatever date you want to give me, I'll take it.
Nice. Yeah, you know what's so funny about this, and I suppose that we kind of hit on it in your bio just a little bit there, the adventure and the trip that is life, I guess, and how it just the ups and downs. So I guess if we could talk about Jess right now, and who the 2 guests she currently has, if you could go back and mention to your younger self when you were like, I'm gonna be a reporter, I'm gonna go and do this. Did you ever think that you would have the opportunity to? And might I ask, do you think you would have had this opportunity if you had gone with the mainstream media route?
Okay, so the first part, did I ever see myself? I thought about that when I reached out to Ike. I thought about, like, if you told me when I was sitting there years ago watching David Icke freaking 7-8 hour lectures on YouTube, thinking that I would be sitting here and speaking to him more than a decade later, no, I would have never believed you. Even if you told me while I was in broadcast school that I'd be talking to Chong, I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
So it's been so amazing to have the opportunity. I've interviewed some, people and, but nothing super big, that I guess is outside of, I don't know, Vanilla Ice. I interviewed Vanilla Ice one time.
Nice. That's a fun one. Come on.
That's a fun one, right? All I could think of was like the Ninja Turtles part, right? I was like, it's the guy from the Ninja Turtles movie. And that's like...
Oh, man. That's awesome.
So, that one was more of a that was back, in school. And that was like more of like, that was probably like, I was like, that's probably the biggest that's going to get as far as doing like a mainstream news thing. Because if not, you're interviewing just people who have something to do with the news story.
Yep. Yeah, it seems to get a little, and don't get me wrong. Well, I don't think it does. Some people say that it gets repetitive here in the podcast community, or those that are YouTubing or independently broadcasting and journalism. I don't think so necessarily, because we have a lot more freedom to actually have conversations.
Freedom.
Right? Yeah, don't mention that dirty word. Oh my God.
No, let me tell you, because if you do this like for broadcast, right? You write your questions to elicit a certain type of soundbite. You want to get something that's quotable that you can cut out and put into a news segment, Yeah. You're not really speaking to somebody to get to know, and you don't have that flexibility too of who you want to talk to. So that's why I think this is awesome. Independent broadcasting, YouTubing, I
Yeah.
think you just have so much more freedom. And that's what I didn't like about, I mean, I knew, of course, if I went in the mainstream, you don't have a choice. You get your
Hmm.
assignment, or you're just an anchor and you just read what the teleprompter says.
Yeah. Which is, I don't know. I mean, well, let's dig into that a good bit, I guess. What made you make that decision? Because you had the opportunity, from understanding, you went and pursued this, you got your degree, and what was the changing point? Was there something that came up that
It,
made
it,
you
it
make it?
happened. It happened in school. It
Okay.
happened during school. While I was in school, I started looking at the other kids in the, broadcast journalism program, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so different than these people. This
Hmm.
is this seems like, and I mean, it seemed more like people who were very attractive that wanted to be on camera for the news.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want to do news,
Wait, are you
But
taking a shot at yourself right now? Are you taking a dig saying I wasn't attractive enough? Is that what you just basically said about yourself?
I think I did.
You're not allowed to do that on this. You can't take digs at yourself like that. I do get what you're saying though. There is like a look.
There's
And
there's the broadcast look. I don't look like, like what the normal anchor looks like.
yeah. No, I get
You
what
know
you're
what I
saying. I
mean?
mean, I think, listen, you're an attractive lady, so I don't think you
Thank
can
you.
take a shot at yourself
I
that way.
wasn't fishing for compliment.
That's okay. That's okay. You got a great voice. You got all that. But I
Thank
get
you.
what you're saying. Like, I like having a beard, and you just don't see broadcasters with beards. It just doesn't happen. It's one of those things. And it's like, does that make me not educated on whatever I might talk about? I don't think so. But that is interesting that you bring that up. So you started to notice in college, you're saying, all right, I'm starting to notice a trend here. There's like,
I'm starting to notice, like, But then, so the school I went to was also a film school. So, like, I was in the same, school in the university, so I could take film classes. So I was
hmm,
like, I'm just going to take a shit ton. I'm sorry, you said I could curse.
yeah,
A
you can
shit
just
ton of
go
film
for it.
classes. So I took a shit ton of film classes too.
Nice.
So, like, I got way more than I needed for my degree, but I just took a bunch of film classes. I took a couple semesters taking, film editing, production design, cinematography, screenwriting,
Hmm.
So I got all the film stuff too for fun. But I knew that. So coming out of school, I was like, at least I can fall back on this film thing.
Yeah. It's funny too because like Divine Pines is bringing up here, or 509 as we call him here. He's like, he says this because you ain't sheep that way. He says the mainstream media wants sheep all looking the same.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that certain networks always have that certain
The
look, right?
look. There's
It's
a
the
look,
look. We
right?
all know about the look. Come on, guys. So, what do you think that has to do with though? Like, do you think that had you pursued just the mainstream, was it more than just the look? Did you start to notice the, I guess?
Oh, it was just like nobody really seemed to be a journalist. I had also did a broadcast journalism program at a junior college before transferring over to university, and that grouping was a lot more diverse. But then also, like, nobody really, like, there's a handful of people that made it from there,
Hmm.
and I think it's because you find out that it's it's not what you think it is. It's like I said earlier, it's you get this story, you cover this story, or it's not
Mm-hmm.
like there's no freedom. So you're talking head. You're going to be a talking head that just says what they want you to say.
I think if anything, I mean, you picked a great time, whether you knew it at the time or not, as
I
far as
didn't
making
know.
right, making that little bit of a switch because a lot of people, and it's regardless of everybody's opinions on this, I guess, a lot of people have moved towards alternative news sources. So
Yes.
I think you picked a great time. You still have the backing. That's the one downside with some of us, I guess, is like, first of all, I don't ever claim to be a reporter or any of that jazz because, like, I'm just the dude who enjoys talking about fun stuff. But we don't have that. We can't, if somebody, I guess, push came to shove and they're like, well, you don't even have a degree. And I'm not knocking degrees completely, like, I'm not. But sometimes we get a little bit too hung up on that. So at least in your case, you can be like, listen, I actually did go for this. It's
I
just I've
did.
chosen to go this route. So,
I did.
hmm,
I
yeah,
went to all this school. I did all that crap. I held the microphone in front of the camera and stood on the street and, talked to people and
did
did
you
all
enjoy
kinds.
that? The
Oh, it
energy of
was
like
fun.
being in
It
the
was
field?
fun.
Yeah.
What I loved, I kind of loved was just being in the studio and, doing the anchoring stuff. I really liked, sitting there. I guess, get what makes sense. I like sitting there and talking to the camera. So that was kind of my favorite thing. And it was great because you had like the stage guy or stage director, I think it was called. And then like he would do all your timing. He'd be like, okay, you go point, like in Wayne's World where they're like 3, and that's fun. You got you got a camera the size of like a computer monitor, like in your face, with words rolling up and down it. That's one thing I don't miss though, is a teleprompter.
I'm so bad at reading. It's so weird that like in my head, I can read everything fine, but it's my mouth doesn't keep up with whatever's going on in my head a lot of times. And so I know I could never do teleprompting. Like we could even, the first time my brother and I ever tried to do, oh dude, I mean, I've messed with it like once or twice just for some small local stuff. And it was okay if you like knew your lines ending, like going in and out, but then after a while, you're not even reading those. But if they needed you to read verbatim this thing, forget it. It's like I psyched myself out just because I knew I couldn't like not say a certain word or whatever. And you can tell some people are really good at it though. Those robotic people are really good at that.
They're good at it, but
give
like
them credit.
No, like my eyes, like you could see my eyes like going back and forth and following the lines. It was so bad. And it's hard because or it's difficult because some people, it's you're reading some other people who've written stuff, so you didn't write it, and then also there's another person who's actually controlling the speed of it in another room with a headset on. That's trying to figure out the speed of your speech, and so it's like fast, slow,
And that's why I don't know if you know him or not, but the magnificent hair and beard combo that is Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. Welcome to the chat room. That's what he says. That's why he stuck to radio. Face for radio. I like
radio. I feel you, Dave. I like radio. I only come on YouTube every once in a while.
I noticed that because I went to your YouTube channel and I was like, I can do some research.
Just took everything down.
Yeah, there's like one episode per month, and I was like,
yeah, no. It's I spend a lot of my time on the radio. I don't know if a lot of people know that because a lot of people know me from YouTube and they might have just assumed I disappeared. But no, I've been on the Fringe FM. I do the news 5 nights a week too, so I spend a lot of time doing that. But I'm planning to start to bring the YouTube back. I interviewed Vinny from Disclosure Team yesterday.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I did miss that one because I was supposed to lay my daughter down for a nap, and I don't know if you guys know what it's like, but when you like cuddle up to a baby and then they just cuddle up to you, it's like they have magical powers that just intertwine you, and I was out.
You were out, huh? Nice.
I missed yours and Dave's. You guys both went live for some like random ones. More, well, yours wasn't random, but his was.
Mine was pretty. It was planned random though. Like at 11, it was at 11 a.m. So it was kind of random time.
Yeah. Well, but is that 11 a.m. your guy? But see, that worked out because it was like, what, 2 p.m. my time. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Time change stuff is so interesting. How that... I was going to say, what's the latest you've ever had to bring... Have you ever done one where you had to stay up super late or you brought them out? Like when you did, oh my gosh, what was his name? Over in the UK. Oh, I'm drawing a blank right now.
I did Josh Burlington, UAP Josh.
Yes, that's it. I was going to say, someone had to stay up late.
He did.
He did the late? Okay.
Bless him. Because he's in the UK. Even Vinny, because I was at 11 a.m. because for Vinny, it was much later in the evening. Yeah. And then even when I'm going to talk to Ike, it's going to be at 10 a.m. our time because that's 5 p.m. his time. Oh, thank you, Patrick Breeze. The elf.
He's got a magnificent beard too. You talk about a beard.
He does.
That's a beard. That's always joke. People sometimes will say like, "Oh, you got a beard." I'm like, "Nah, Joe has a beard from the UFO Garage podcast. Elf has a beard. Dave Scott. I feel like we're similar in the level of beards, and my brother's got a ridiculous. His beard is just ridiculous. I don't even understand.
So, what length does it become a beard? Like this is not a beard length, is what you're saying?
I don't know. I mean, there could be, listen, there's a whole inner community to the bearded people. Like some people take it really seriously. I'm not one of those people. I think it's a beard, but it's not the perfect beard. And I totally recognize that. Some people have very symmetrical looking beards. Mine is not perfectly symmetrical, right? It's got a little bit of like a split in the middle where it doesn't stay
Yes.
filled. My brother's stays filled. Elf has a very nice symmetrical shoot. It just depends on what you're going for. Some people like the braids. Like sideways wise, it's okay. But
It's
like
very
a face
nice,
on
yes.
shot, yeah. Yeah, I do remember because I asked the question on Alien Girl and that popped up. I remember. I will give it credit. My beard did throw you off track at one point. I do think that happened. Because you stopped. You were saying like, "Well, that's a nice beard."
I was like, that's a nice beard. I saw it come in the chat and I saw the beard. All I saw was the beard.
Tammy was shaking. Glad to have you here. Tammy's such a good supporter of not only Dave Scott's show, Spaced Out Radio, but also the UFO Garage podcast. We always love having you in here, Tammy. And you ask such great questions.
Hello.
I believe she's, in Canada. Could be.
Oh, nice.
So and moving into this, though, now you also have a good friend. I know she, I believe, goes by UFO Jane, generally speaking.
Yes, UFO Jane, my good friend.
Heck yeah. Now, did she go in? She is an actual journalist. She went into the same career path, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But she stuck mainly with the...
Oh, she's very much UFO focused. Her name is UFO Jane. You know.
For a reason, right? She's throwing subtle hints out there.
No, but she's got a great website. She's been running for years, TexasUFOsightings.com. And then she's got the Weird UFO show where she has an alien. I don't know if you know she has an alien that works with her on the show, Glurp.
Yes, I got to bring that up to you once you finish. Go ahead. Sorry.
And and we do a show, and it's been kind of sporadic, but Jane and I do a show called the Weird Hollywood Podcast, where we talk about movies and then we try to tie them to cases and talk about, or if it's like, a ghost movie, we'll talk about like, oh, is this kind of realistic to what a ghost is, or if this is realistic to kind of what an abduction is, or what we think an abduction is. So that's a lot of fun. We've done a lot of movies. If you guys want to check those out though, too, those are a lot of fun.
Now, well, I guess before we move into that, because I do want to hit on that point, but really quick with her alien, I'm going to murder the name here. Is it Glurp?
He's Glurp.
Okay. I was messaging Ben about this because it drove me nuts. When I first came across her channel because of you, I was, looking you up a little, seeing some of your stuff. And I came across this and I said, oh, that's cool. She's totally has kept that character from the TV show and it has him on here as a joke. And then I got looking it up. I'm like, wait, there's no TV show for this thing. But I have a memory, I swear to you, of it was between 2010 and 2012. And it was an alien show. And it had to do with being this alien that was in disguise, basically, essentially kind of like the Resident Alien, like what they've done.
Yeah.
I remember that being with this character Glurp in 2010, 2012 era. But from my understanding, that's never existed, right? That doesn't exist.
Mandela effect.
I'm telling you, I was messaging Ben about this. I said, Ben, am I losing? I said, you got to calm me down here. Cause I was like, I swear I've seen this character. He's like, no, man, that's that fool that was on the Big Phone Home. And I was like, no, but before that, I swear this has been a character. Now, she's had him as a running character for a couple of years, right? Like 2018.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Very long time.
That's what some people are saying. They're like, Mandela effect. Yeah.
Mandela effect. You know what? I'm going to message Glurp after this and tell him that there's a Mandela effect
I'm telling
with him. Because I believe they create, that's their character, that's their dude. I think it's their character.
Mm-hmm. I could have sworn. I was Googling images, and the only thing I was pulling up was anything related to her and some, cons that she'd gone to and stuff. And I was like, so anybody in the chat, does anybody else remember this character? I should have downloaded a picture and had it ready
I'm
for them.
going to message him, right now. I'm going to be like, Glurp, they think you were from a TV show.
I'm telling you. I thought I seen it on there. But moving forward, I love what you and Jane are doing that way far as the television or say movies and series. This is my own personal opinion. I always say, hey, here's my opinion. There's no factual evidence in this. Some things we could speculate at. But I've always felt that whether it be music, art, Hollywood, which encompasses both of those things really, it can be that slow disclosure to bring people's consciousness and just exposure and comfort level to things to a different level. And I feel like the drip for the UFOs, besides it being a fun storyline, has been going on for a long time. I feel like let's just say Area 51 in the 80s and 90s, for those that were, I wasn't really up and running at that point, but I was born in 91, so I was there, but I wasn't there, But if you were talking about
you were kind of there.
I was sort of there. I was doing stuff. I don't really remember what, but so if you were talking about Area 51, you were kind of that crazy person, right? Even up in, you could say almost the early 2000s, it was close to being crazy person. Now, it's like everybody knows. I mean, there's this common knowledge. All of my kids and anybody born from 2000 on is like, oh yeah, Area 51. Like it's a well accepted thing. So with you and her covering these shows, what are your feelings and or thoughts on the idea of mainstream media or Hollywood being slow disclosure to stuff? Or do you think we have to be careful and not read too much into that?
Well, I mean, there's the whole like predictive programming thing when it comes to movies. Like, they put these things in movies before they can do them as some sort of ritual, too. So if you think about like slow drip disclosure and getting people used to the idea, too, let's take it back. Let's talk about something like technology, right? You see different technologies that were put like, the Star Trek communicators or, like in Back to the Future 3, they got the video screens, you can call people, different technologies that, were put into these movies like a long time before we actually got these kind of things,
Very true.
So you kind of think about that too. So if you think about it in that sense, perhaps the same thing is going on with like UFOs and aliens,
Mm-hmm. I was to say, to me personally, you look at, like you said, if nothing else, the idea of just at least getting the consciousness to a point to where we're more exposed and okay with the idea. I mean, they came out and admitted last year, the actual U.S. government came out and said, yeah, we've got these these other, otherworldly spacecrafts, and they were one step short of saying the aliens, the actual beings, as it were. And some have said and read and interpreted, and I will leave that to their own experts to cover that, saying that, yeah, they've come out and said they're real. So, and nobody really batted an eye. So what are your thoughts on that? Was that partially due to the Hollywood push on this over the years, or was that just that we have too much crap going on and we don't have time to deal with aliens?
We do have a lot of crap going on. Like, there is a lot going on in the world, and it's kind of tumultuous at this time. And it's interesting, that we do have like this, how this UFO or UAP thing has kind of taken off too during this tumultuous time.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like defense research and also interest, seem either more people are outside talking about it, or this is more interest than I've noticed in like ever in the topic.
Yeah. Let's see. Really quick, Lewis has a question. If you guys do have a question tonight, please put them in caps. If you can, you get a chance. It would help me out quite a bit. But quick question, Willie. What about us capturing aliens like they abduct us? Okay, so you're asking your question to Jess being, do we capture aliens? If that's not the question, let me know. But Jess, what do you think about that?
I don't know. Maybe we do. We've done worse stuff to people.
Very, very true. We have done some pretty bad stuff to
We've done pretty
people.
bad stuff.
Yeah.
To humans, to our own people, and to peoples of other countries, and other people do bad things to each other.
Yeah. Wayne over here with the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, he mentions this, the one X-File episode that predicted 9/11. That is creepy.
Yes.
I did not know about that, actually, so that's news to me. That's interesting.
I did a 9/11 episode the week before 9/11, and we talked about that episode and some other like things that were kind of predictive programming for 9/11.
Yeah, man, oh man, that's the one that's like, it sucks. We'd have to be like, you'd have to come over to our podcast. One of my brother and I do. Like, we can do that over there. I don't know if I can do that for them here. They probably
for sure.
But you come over and hang out with us. We can do that. But you are right on the fact that, I mean, that's not something that's made up. That's something that's tangible. We can point to and say, well, that did happen, and there was some hints or ideas that led up to that. And that's where people get, I think, where do you draw the line yourself? Because you labeled yourself. You said, listen, conspiracy theories is right at the top of your list. How do you approach a conspiracy theory? What is your process so as to not get too lost and entangled in it as a
It's
journalist?
hard. It's hard. It's very difficult because you get down these rabbit holes, and then if you stay down there too long, then it'll start to kind of affect the way you start to think. So you have to pull yourself back out and be very objective and look at things from many different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I'm very much into, like worldwide kind of government stuff, things like that, control systems, and because it's like it's not fake, it's there and it's real, and there's a lot to dig into.
Yeah. And how do we do that in a way that educates people in a proper manner versus, it can be very easy. I don't know, I won't say this for yourself, but I know myself, I can find myself sometimes, if I'm not careful, going too hard on it, and you're almost scaring people versus attracting them to it. What do we do that way to actually make them interested in looking in this in a manner that helps?
I think the way I try to approach things is, it's like, I try to, when I do talk about these things, because for a long time, honestly, I was scared to really broadcast and talk about these things because I wanted to approach it in the correct way.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, there's like alligator people or, something, you know what I mean?
That's
But
just
I try.
Florida. I'm
That's
just kidding.
just, well, there are people, who knows?
Jess is like, no, wait a second. Don't get me started.
Don't get me started on alligator people. But no, there's, you have to be careful too. And there was like there was the whole QAnon thing. And like,
Yeah.
so for a long time I was like, Jess, why don't you just stay away from that for a little bit and let that kind of die down, and then you can come back out and talk about these things. But it's talking about these things from like a research perspective and talking about both sides of it, because you see, what's being done, and what the trick is to really look at the bigger picture, and see like, well, what are these moves that are going on? Why are they making these moves?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
just, I could keep going, but yeah, go.
No, it's the same. I mean, keep going. I mean, this is what you do. I guess that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in is that, a lot of people always say, they're like, one of the excuses that, the common thing we hear anytime somebody brings up a conspiracy theory or any of that stuff is like, oh, where'd you do your research, YouTube? And it's like, well, we have someone who's a journalistic, researcher. So, well, I shouldn't say researcher, a journalistic reporter. So I just like hearing your process on it. Is it any different than any of us that are out there trying to learn the truth?
I don't think it's any different. I think, you can't take like even me, even if I'm on YouTube, like you can't take everything I'm saying as gold. I don't know. I mean, we're just people too. But what I'm bringing together is the research that I've found and what I'm talking about. And I look for, academics. I look for, scientists. I look for people that, are saying the same thing, or people in these fields. I'm not just saying like, oh, this is so because I watched it in a YouTube video or I saw it on Reddit. You have to take it a step further and you have to start looking into it. Like I saw I was on Reddit today, and there's ridiculous posts, and it's just a screenshot, and you go and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to find this story that all these people are harping on. Mm-hmm. All right, there is no story. That's just a screenshot of some BS. It's not real. And then it's already angered all these people. That's what it was supposed to do. So, also what I like to do is try to teach people like what I've learned and filter out the BS. And, I talk a lot about the media too, because, it's like, it's not just like mainstream media. We're dealing with social media too.
Very true. Yeah. There's, I guess so. Like, let's bring up this question. Let's bring up this one since Lewis put it in the question. He says, do aliens harvest us like we do animals here on Earth? So there's a big question that people bring up if they're coming into the alien topic. That's in the top 5.
I understand. I mean, it's highly possible. I mean, with, they say they pick up the goat, not the goats, the cows, they do that. They say that, I mean, but if you take it let's just take it from a like, oh, how could it be possibly, right? So we believe we are more intelligent than animals, so we, do experiments on them. We eat them, we kill them,
Yeah.
And, if there's another species, though, maybe they believe they're more intelligent than us, or at least, they're going to look at humans as an animal.
Yeah. I've also brought that up to, anybody who's an outdoor, a lot of outdoorsmen and stuff, which most outdoorsmen have a lot of respect for nature, right? Believe it or not.
Yes.
Contrary to Hollywood's interpretation of them, they usually have a lot of respect for, the wilderness and animals. And, but some of them still hold that sense of like, it's kind of it's a dumb animal, and it's just doing its thing. Not saying all of them, but I can see how the debate comes down to consciousness, right? What separates, why are you more important than a dolphin that's incredibly intelligent or a chimp that's incredibly intelligent or whatever the species might be, a mountain lion that, they're so elusive, Black Panthers, any of these things. And it just seems to be the lack that we can't communicate with them. Because even if you could go out and talk with like a really dumb chickens aren't that smart. That one, I can say that one. But if you could talk to them and they could talk even like a couple words back to you, all of a sudden they would be on that next rung of the evolutionary chain, I feel. So sometimes I always wonder if we are being taken, and everybody's got different opinions on this as far as how they communicate. Is it just a communication thing? Is that all it is, that we have a lack of that, so it's creating a divide?
I have no idea. I don't know, man.
No, that's okay. I just was curious if you had an opinion. I mean, another question that let's see, Black Dragon had brought this one up, because this is one's more tangible, I guess we could say. We could put our hands. Yeah. Oh, I lost it. Where did it go? I'm gonna find it. I promise. I seen it up here. All right, right here. So he was saying, like human trafficking, it is worldwide, but is it all connected? So that's a tangible thing that we can point to and say, yeah, maybe we don't have all the evidence, but we know something's up.
Yeah.
So how do you relate that in the same manner, I guess, when you're working on things that aren't proven yet? Is it just a conspiracy theory? To me, that's just a hypothesis,
It's just
right? You're
kind of a hype. You're working on it. You're putting things together, but the longer you're kind of entrenched in this research and looking at other people's research and things, came to be that, were discussed in the conspiracy theorist community, and you're like, oh, well, crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it seems like it always leads in that next. I feel like never get to the bottom of anything, because it's so entangled. Like it's that next thing that's like, oh, it's a spider web.
It's a huge massive spider web, and we're just like little tiny dots within their spider web, man. It's nuts. And then it makes you feel really small, and then it makes me go, I'm just going to go back to reading about or podcasting for a minute and not think about like the whole big thing,
I love that. So we have Jess Rogue on here, right, from the Rogue Report guys, and I love that, rolling over from last night's after party and the after party. Speaking of that, you guys, this is where you can catch Jess. We have the great debate going on about Santa Claus not being real. And it was made as a joke and a comment, but the people are really going back and forth on this. And we joked because I laid the question out to somebody that night, and I said, if you think about it, and Joe and Ben have hit on this in their show before, it's the first conspiracy theory that turns out to be true in almost all individuals' lives. And my parents never raised me with the idea that Santa was real. So I had that unique, I think part of it was they were
unique.
Poor, maybe. I swear,
yes.
Yeah. They were like, nah, that's not a thing, man. We were raised in a really religious household, so that wasn't a thing. But I had these cousins, we're all the same age, pretty close to it, who totally did. We're writing letters. Ooh. And so you start to get to that age where I'm like, all right, I'm 10. They're like 8 or 9. I'm like starting to like, man, I feel like I got to free my brothers, right? So I'm like hinting at the idea. And I remember the one conversation in particular, it was the idea of like, they were saying, they're like, no way that he's not real. And this is before you could just Google everything, right? Like we had to struggle. Okay, guys, there was a process. You had to sacrifice 2 animals to get to the internet connection. It was amazing. You had to, sunfire gods would come down and make a connection for you. And there's lots of screeching. But anyways, we were talking and he was like, my mom, my dad would be lying to me. Your mom and dad, my aunt and uncle, right? Grandma and grandpa, my teacher, these books I've been reading, these shows I've been watching on TV, they'd all be lying to me. And I was like, as a kid, it was whatever. But as an adult, I'm like, wow, it was totally real though. That was really happening to that poor kid. So what are your thoughts on that, I guess? If Santa's not real, and some people are really upset about this, they're still figuring this out, I guess, in the chat here.
Oh man, I'm
now
sorry.
We have I am Santa Smith, because around here I am Chad Smith is a pretty big deal. Now it's I am Santa Smith.
Awesome. Santa Smith.
Yeah, what was your relationship with that? Did you always know the Santa game?
So my mom is from Vietnam and my dad is American, right?
Oh heck yeah.
And all my cousins I grew up with, like their parents were Vietnamese.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So when I found out they didn't get anything from Santa, and my mom and my gifts from Santa were under the Christmas tree at the same time as the rest of the gifts, in the same wrapping paper, Mom, and it has the same my mom's writing, but it says from Santa. Bless her heart, but they didn't have Santa. And then my dad was like, I don't think he was like clear about like you put the Santa gifts out after Christmas Eve. Or when you put the cookies out, this was all very quick. Figured out very quick. Put out the cookies. Oh, my dad didn't eat them, so they're still sitting there in the morning, like the 3 cookies, the milk, like there's the film. And I was like, oh. So no, this whole thing, that thing got unraveled quickly. I was in school in 2nd or 3rd grade, and this girl goes, Santa's real. And I'm like, you know what? I was like, ain't nobody coming down your chimney. And she's like, no, I seen him. And I was like, you're telling me a dude came down your chimney and then dropped gifts off? I mean, in a much nicer, like 2nd grade year old way, but
right, of course.
But she's like, no, I saw his energy come and drop off the gifts. And I was like, all right. And that was it. I just dropped it. We all knew like there was no Santa, from very early.
Yep. And I remember the one time too, this is a great answer by Jim, by the way, Santa equals parents' love. And
but yeah, my mom tried, and I appreciate it, but I knew there was no man. No Christmas man.
I love that Wayne over here is like, if Santa ain't real, then you have to ask, what is real? And there's great lore, the mythology behind the original, who probably was the real Santa. That story's fascinating. You should look that up. Like I almost feel like that should be like when they finally figured out as a parent, I'm going to do it with my kids, because my wife's really on it. She grew up with the magic of Santa. Okay. I didn't, but I'm doing it. I haven't. If my kid directly asked me, I don't know. I think I've told her. I've kind of hit it. I'm like, I'm not lying, but I'm also like, I know I'm assisting in this scheme, because like the total thing you were talking about, like the cookies, I had to make sure I didn't quite eat all the cookies.
You have to like make it look like, you gotta like make it look like you took a bite and like still leave some milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he gets so excited, and like they're at an age, like I said, I mentioned he's 5, 3, and
adorable
3 and 2 or whatever. So yeah, it's a fun time for them, and the world is just magical.
We can have Santa.
Yeah, and I don't think it breaks anybody, but it is funny that when some people bring up that idea, bringing it back to stuff like UFOs or MK Ultra and all those other things that we know are fact now. Those are release documents.
Yeah.
But when you bring it back to them, they're like, man, how many people would have to be in on this? And you're like, when you were a kid, this was happening.
How many people?
Same thing.
It's the same thing, but like I could. Someone in the chat mentioned like there's then it carries on to Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy. Oh, Tooth Fairy. I heard on TV. I confirmed this with other kids. I was like, hey, when the Tooth Fairy comes to your house, do they take your tooth and like leave you like $1 or something? They're like, yeah, they always take your tooth. That's why they're the Tooth Fairy. My tooth was always still there. I even put that thing in an envelope. $1. I love my parents. Bless my parents. I bless them for doing it, but it was like, I don't think they knew the full lore.
Yeah. It's funny. My kid just the other day, he came to us and started talking about Tooth Fairy, and again, that was something that wasn't a thing for us. We knew our parents were giving us money, and he was like, he started laying out this whole story about there's this castle and there's going to be candy associated with it. He was telling me this whole story, and I've never read him this book on this. I've never seen him watch a cartoon on this, and so I was like waiting. My wife was out at the time, and I waited till she came back. I was like, hey babe, I was like, is there like a story about the Tooth Fairy that I don't know? And I had her tell him, and even she was like, I don't know what that is either. But we were both like, that's interesting. Yep, that could be. We're like taking notes, like, I guess this is what we got to do now. I don't know. Oh man, yeah. The Krampus though, that is, that's the balance to all things, right? You have the good and you got the evil. But yeah, I believe that's German lore, right?
Yeah, I interviewed a Krampus on a podcast years ago, like a professional Krampus. Yes.
Nice.
It's kind of cool. Like he dressed as a Krampus, and he made a Christmas album with a duo. It was a Krampus Christmas album.
Very interesting.
So Krampus carols.
Very nice. And you just went out and like threatened people at the door. Was it like was it like death thrash metal, or like how did?
No, it was like no, the fun you would think, right? But no, I think it was very like kind of traditional sounding carols done in the style like where the lyrics have been changed to like Krampus carol type things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just changing of the terminology, I guess, along the way.
Yeah, changing it and adapting it to Krampus carols.
Yeah. Tammy, you're not wrong about there about the elf thing. We did that for the first time, fully committed to that last year, and yeah,
Did you do well?
We did. We did, but man, was he on it every day.
Where's the elf?
Where's the elf? He brought up some good points, though. I was like, man, he's bringing up good points. Like a weekend when it finally was moving every day, right? And he started talking to me. He's not even 5 at the time. He's like, so why is she not moving during the day? Like, why is she just sitting there? We're like, oh, and there's a whole book that comes with this. So you sit down and you read in the book about the rules and you can't touch and all this stuff. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Where does his soul go during the day, or what happens?
Yeah. Well, so during the day, they sit there all day. They're watching for Santa. So this elf sits wherever in the house that we position it, and it watches them all day. And it leaves at night when you go to bed, reports to Santa, and it's going to be a new spot hiding during the day. So every night you have to move this thing to a new position, a new thing. But he started asking, he was like, why doesn't it move? It was his first question. And then his second question, which was relevant, was like, why does she stay here? Why is she watching us? Like, is that, he wanted to know why she was, and I was like, that's a fair question. I'm not even gonna, but we blew it off. We're like, I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, the elf on the shelf thing, that's more commitment, I think. And it's just as much of a lie for sure. We're 100% contributing to it. Jim, you bring up a good point. Sorry, go ahead, Rogue.
No, I was going to say it's like this whole thing where it's teaching the children surveillance. The elf is watching you and they're going to report you to Santa and you're not going to get gifts. It's kind of strange in that since I don't have children, I'm sure it works great, but it's like this surveillance-y thing where I'm like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love the no one puts elf on a shelf. Come at me, bro. Yeah, I tell you what, you have to get creative because you start running out of places to place them. I'm Jess. I'm thinking this must be one of your listeners. Welcome to the garage. Welcome to the van. We're out taking a spin, hanging with Jess. Do you know perhaps
I don't know if
I've seen this in the chat either. Okay. Well, welcome,
Hello, Mo.
Welcome. We're just talking about all kinds of stuff in here tonight. Right now, we ended up on Santa. I'm not sure how that happened. But really quick then, let's bring it back to really tangible credible, I guess you could say, conspiracy theories. And again, I have trouble with that word because I think if you start to find enough evidence, it's no longer conspiracy theory. You're just working on a hypothesis that hasn't have every dot connected yet. So you can have it 95% there, and people will still, for whatever reason, hold to that 5% and be like, you're wrong. And I just don't get it. So what is your opinion on, I guess, the idea of bringing a conspiracy together that well, let's do this. What's some of your favorite? Let's do some of Jess's favorite conspiracies that are either true or you're still working on.
I just think it's hard when you're saying true or not true. A lot of the ones that I really, am fascinated with is just the control systems and the way the governments work together. And, and kind of these movements in the background, and I think because I do look at so much news too, I look at everything and see how things are moving. And it's there's not can't say my favorite conspiracy because I don't think any of them are positive things. It's not a positive word when we say conspiracy. But I don't have a favorite one. Right now I'm looking at doing a lot of media stuff, and I'm doing a lot of getting into a lot of mind control stuff and propaganda lately. So that's kind of where I am right now. Just how these things can, because the most powerful thing is really somebody's thoughts and their beliefs, and so controlling somebody's thoughts and beliefs. I figured that was kind of the big conspiracy, how we're so divided too, because, part of the thing is to divide people because people together are stronger. And so that's my thing. It's going back and looking at how all this stuff was set up and, how we're living with these things 100 years later, and how, or even longer, the U.S. hasn't been around that long.
In the grand scheme of things, we're a micro blip on the screen. JME Patton, thank you very much for that super chat. Also, very nice numerology there. For his question for you, Jess, what are your thoughts on the New World Order, RFID, microchipping, mark of the beast, and that kind of thing? Man, you're going hard. It's coming in with those hard questions.
It's kind of crazy because the other day I was going through Twitter and there's a lot going on in like say Australia, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a doctor and another politician that used the words New World Order when talking about how things were going to be moving forward.
Yeah.
This vernacular is coming out and being spoken by these people now, and what you think, what does New World Order mean? It's the New World Order,
Yeah.
I mean,
The Illuminati.
and you want to talk about microchipping and people, and there's two schools of thoughts on this. There's, some people are wanting to get microchipped and then they can scan into their office buildings or log into their computers, but also, there's these nowadays too. They don't really need
100%.
do they really? Yeah, we don't really need that. And so there's a lot of surveillance going on with that too. So the mark of the beast thing, oh, thank you.
I love Stephen Greer's flair, first of all.
That
Great
that is
name.
a great name. It's
I
just
love
I
it.
know it's like I know exactly what that is,
I know. Right? Oh, man.
Ah, but yeah, no, but the mark of the beast thing, I feel like really okay, in China already right now, right? They want to move into their own digital currency, and what they're wanting to work on too is all your currency is on this, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
all on your phone. And then so say you do something that causes you to break a Chinese law and then they fine you. And then guess what? Comes directly out of your phone. Boom, paid. Social credits, fucking it's
Yeah.
already happening. It's like this stuff isn't quite how they said it was going to be, but the movement, I don't know if it's good or bad, but there is the movement towards, these digital currencies now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And that would shift the whole system if it took over.
correct. Yeah. And like right here, Wayne's mentioned, I can't pop up because I'll replace the one that was ways back that I have on the screen, but he mentioned, the whole, the great reset, right? And with the digital currency, what's amazing, like my brother's really big in that. He's a crypto trader. He trades all the time, day trading. And it could be the greatest thing ever. If it's left alone, free market, true free market enterprise, it's amazing. It is a peer-to-peer trading source that is it removes all the extra bullcrap you don't need, the banking system, the federal and blah, 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 to get their cut. And it's just you and I. And that's all it is. It's the same if I handed you $25 and they never knew about it. It's that. And there's a reason why the federal government attacked the cryptocurrencies so hard over the past 2 years. Tried to sink them, still trying to sink them, and then came out in 2020 and was like, guys, we have a federal cryptocurrency. Let's go. And I was like, you guys just trying to what are you doing? So, I mean, and I think if that happens, I am genuinely concerned about that because that, like you're saying, it's going to be, we already see some of the other stuff. I don't know how it is where you live, but where I live, there's a lot of the stores will only accept exact cash if cash at all.
Yes.
And it's very
Yes.
50-50 depending on where you go. And any of the
No, a lot
major big name people don't accept it. It has to be card. So
Yeah, no, I'm starting to see that too, where they're like, oh, cash. No, you gotta have a card.
mm-hmm.
You gotta have the RFID chip on your card.
Yep.
Near field paying. I feel so uncomfortable with that thing. I'm like, is somebody, like you only have to be so close before somebody can like probably access your information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that, and again, I suppose when I am sure we sound like our grandparents, right, when they first started bringing out checks or credit cards. They're like, what?
Probably.
What?
How do you pay with the card?
Yeah. Well, I'm not writing all the information on a piece of paper and carrying it around with me. I get that. Like I said, to me, I always look at everything. It's just a tool. This bottle of water, it's just a bottle of water, right? But then all it is it's a tool. It's how I utilize that. So it's all in how it's applied in the rules and regulations that they, apply to it. And I think that if it's done right and left alone, I don't think that the digital cryptocurrency stuff or digital cryptocurrency is bad. But I'm pretty anti, I'm very free. I like people to be as free individual as possible, and I think the government just gets way too involved, the federal government in particular, when it comes to our cash and our assets. And it's a trigger subject for me. So I usually
I can see.
But real quick, just so I don't go too far back and forget about it, Wayne was asking, I know we're switching gears slightly here, we'll get back to it, but what about fairies or the Fae? Does Jess have any opinions about that?
As for, one of my favorite books is Passports to Magonia by
Mm,
Jacques Vallée, and he talks about the fairy and the fae, and he talks about how a lot of these folklores and stories are possibly, most likely talking about the same things people are experiencing today, and we call them UFOs or alien abductions. But in those in other times and other cultures, they have different names for them.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
I think I don't know. I remember as a kid, because like I mentioned, we were, being raised really religious and stuff. We'd read the Bible and all this stuff would be, and there's a lot mentioned in the Bible. And I'm not saying that's the only answer to anything. Is whatever you believe and whatever you go for, that's on you and that's great. But it's so funny that people get hung up. I knew certain Christians that were like the world's 6,000 years old. That's it, man. There's no dinosaurs. There's none of this stuff. It didn't exist, and in the Bible itself, it talks about a Leviathan, it talks about a unicorn, it talks about dragons. Like this stuff's in there. It's in the and it's just funny that people get so hung up on it. But I remember I used to ask my dad, I'm like, where did that stuff come from? Like
Yeah.
centaurs or just these titans and stuff. Like, is this all just folklore, or did something once exist that's just been passed down through our, I guess, word of mouth, as it were? Sure, it's probably been
Yes.
mutilated and twisted, but man, it had to have come from something. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there used to be this idea, like I guess the Lord of the Rings kind of idea, as it were, or any of the great movies that we, what's the most famous one that ended so badly I can't even talk about it? Oh God, what was it? Game of
No.
Thrones.
No.
That was rough. It was a great show.
It
Listen,
was.
great
And
show,
I
but
felt. I just felt like I invested so much time
right?
into that to be so let down.
It was so bad.
It was like the White Walkers are coming. Oh yeah, man, the fucking White Walkers are gonna be here. Yes, there's gonna be some. What? That was
That was
it.
it. That was it. And you won't be able to
Oh.
see half of anything the
Oh, the
first
half
whole
of the
first
battle.
season.
Oh, do you want to see like browns and blacks with like these little like torches? And you're like,
People are
sounded
dying,
cool.
I think. I hear yelling. I can hear
Like there's like
sounds.
clashing, you're like, oh, maybe a horse fell. I don't know.
It's like being wasted at a rave party. You're not sure what's going on. You're like, there's a lot of lights. I hear sounds.
Yeah,
Just no lights. It
something's
just be.
happening.
Oh man. Yeah. So someone
Oh,
said here, this is interesting. Champ Campbell. Welcome, first of all. They say, I'm sure dinosaur bones were mistaken dragons. So, Jess, what are your thoughts on that?
yes. Yes. Dinosaur bones were probably, what people thought were dragons. They used in Chinese medicine, they'd say they had dragon bone, but it was probably dinosaur bones. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we're people, and how humans are. They make up stories, like. And
We
as we
do.
go forward, we know like sometimes the stories, the first thoughts or theories were wrong. And then we move on and we find out, oh, okay, this is why this is.
So true. T has
Oh,
saying biggest disappointment since Lost. Here's the thing. I've started Lost like 4 times, and I always make it to the 4th season, and I never get any further. And I just want to do it
how
to be disappointed with all of you guys. I know it ends bad. I
how
haven't
you
done it.
can't you see, I can't because I know, and everybody's like, oh, the ending sucks. So I was like, why am I going to spend my time? And you, Willie, you not only like, well, you've done it 3 times, you got to season
Yeah,
4. If you just did it one time
I
through, you
know.
probably would have been done. You probably watched more episodes than there are of Lost at this
I really
point.
have. Listen, I love the first 3 seasons of Lost. Are
Man.
great. They were so good, far as the concept, at least. It was great for television. It was great storytelling. Like there's one that just came out recently, that I started watching. Oh, what's it called? Le Brum or Le Bru or something like that. It's the big giant hole in L.A. that opens up. There's a giant sinkhole, and they sink down. I think it's called Le Bru or something.
What? How come I've never
Yeah,
heard of this?
it just
What
came
is it?
out.
LeBrew?
I think it's like Le Bru or Le. I'm murdering the name here, but
Le-
it just came out this past Tuesday on NBC. I think it was. And the premise of the story is great.
LeBrew.
The
Nope.
acting is subpar-ish, but I have a
Oh.
feeling I have a feeling that's gonna be one of those ones again where you're like, oh my god, this is a great foundation, and then it'll be like, how can we screw it up? It's like they start too strong and they can't finish. I don't know.
It happens so much often with these shows.
Because what
Like,
it's hitting on is like the whole inner Earth thing. Like they fall in, all of a sudden there's like
oh,
dinosaurs. There's like
oh, that's cool.
yeah. the crustacean period, I think, or something along those lines. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Really quick though, because I'll miss him as the chat's moving along. Man, we're just jumping subject to subject tonight. Luis
I know.
Montez, what's up, brother? Wants to know.
Hello.
Jess, what are the Greys? You just need to have all the answers tonight for us, Jess. You need to know.
Oh my God, I'm not like an authority on this because there's several theories about Greys, and I have never met one. Some people think they're like kind of like clones or like robotic kind of beings, like biological androids that are clones that do the work or something. And then some people say that, they might be their own race or they hang out with another race. They could be something that people talked about back in the day with, like the Fae type stories as well. You know what I mean? So, or it could be something that's also just always here.
Right.
Maybe there's one behind you now.
You wouldn't even know, Lewis. He's there with you. Thank you, by the way, JME Patton. It is
La Brea Tar Pits.
Yeah, I had the name wrong. So that's the name of the show. And like I said, I'm not holding my breath. Okay, it is what it is. Clearly the budget for like some of the digital stuff isn't there, but the premise, the storylines got me roped in. Yeah, I'm at least there for it. I'm a sucker for grade B, grade C movie TV shows. I love them.
Yeah.
There was one back in the day. I'll see if you remember this one. It was called I really thought the name was just going to come to me, and it didn't. So, oh God, what was it? He was like a sheriff that went to this town. It's like 2012. He goes to this town, and everything's like super advanced. He ends up becoming the sheriff of this town, and everything's oh my gosh, it's gonna drive me nuts now that I don't remember this.
Okay, he's a sheriff.
He's a sheriff, and he has like a daughter, and everything in the town is super advanced technology. Essentially, we'll see if anyone in the chat knows.
Okay, so super advanced technology sheriff.
Oh my gosh, it's like one word. Eureka! Thank you, Jim. Thank you. It was called Eureka.
Man,
and Zero Cool. You guys called it.
Never guessed that.
Yes, Eureka was one that like it sucked me in. Like I in the server that it was on dropped it. Another one would be Warehouse 13. That was another one that was like great.
I didn't watch that one. Seemed like a kind of a fun one though.
Yeah, because it hits on the idea that kind of, you could say like like how the Catholic Church has like everything down in their secret pits where they have all this stuff, all these knowledge, similar to that. But like there's the U.S. government that like Area 51's a joke everybody knows about. So like Warehouse 13's where it's at, and there's this every episode there's this thing they got to solve, and it gets stored in this massive warehouse. So. But it got canceled. Apparently it wasn't doing good enough. And I just don't know why those shows get canceled. Because like I get they're not great acting and they're not bringing in money. But man, they like tickle my inner nerd so much. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're fun. And, it's... Does Sci-Fi make many shows anymore? Like, I don't know. I don't have Sci-Fi Channel anymore.
Sci-Fi. So the good one that's on there right now would be worth checking out. Maybe UFO Jane would want to cover it. I'm sure you probably already have. I haven't gone through all your stuff. But The Resident Alien is a good one.
I want to watch it so bad. That's something I've been wanting to watch. Yeah.
I would say check that one out. Another one I've been really big on lately too, if you have Disney Plus, is Loki, because it gets.
I love Loki.
Did you watch it?
I did an episode on Loki a few months back.
So good, that show. So I guess that's what I'm hitting at when I say that for years and years and years they were hinting at the idea of secret government agencies and aliens. Now the big push, everything. You look at like Stranger Things. What's it all dealing with?
Yes.
It's dealing with this multiverse, this convicts, interdimensional beings, and I just feel like that's the next thing. Like when Lou Elizondo comes out and you guys are like, guys, you aren't ready. Like you think you're ready, but you're not ready.
That thing from Stranger Things, that's real, yo. And then everybody's like, we are somber. You are correct, Mr. Elizondo.
You know what, guys? Let's just put the aliens back. We don't want that crap.
No, but that's the thing. People are always like, well, what if they come and they're like space brothers or they're humans? Or what if they're like some sort of being that doesn't even think like us? And then all of a sudden it's like, color of out of space and it's really bad, like I'm like, we don't know what it is.
So that's a good one. Stephen Gru's Flair says The Expanse is my fave. also, I believe that is one of the more accurate ones, and it comes down to just the
Ooh.
technical aspect of what you could and could not do on a ship and all that jazz. They get really into it, and I've only into the first season, but I do like it because it deals with the idea of like some of the stuff we're dealing with. If we start expanding to Mars, we're going to be multiplanetary, species. So what happens in 4 or 5 generations? What are the effects on the human body? What are the effects of like we get divided here in the the world with our like, oh, we live here and you live there, but like no, you're not even on the same planet. The Expanse is pretty good. I would definitely recommend that one to people. So yeah, I don't know. To me, and again, I try not to get too hung up on it, but the Hollywood disclosure stuff, or when a show comes out that hits on some of that stuff, we're like, okay, I can see they don't have the funding and the budgeting, but the storyline or like the message behind it is so good. Sometimes I'm like, that just feels like, and then you look at those shows, it's always they get like 2-3 seasons and they get canceled. And they always say their numbers are like, sorry, your numbers sucked. And I'm like, but everybody I'm talking to is watching this. How are their numbers not good? I just sometimes think they're like, whoa, guys are like letting too much out right now.
It's like, but like something like Stargate SG-1. I mean, I think there's like 1 billion seasons, and then there was like a spin-off season. I haven't been watching it, but my brother and my dad have been watching. I was like, how many episodes of that darn thing is there? A lot. That Stargate.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Yep. So Zero Co didn't like The Expanse so much, though. They're like, I tried The Expanse. I keep getting bored. What does it get good? I'm only the first season in. I always give things the first season. I really do, because you never know sometimes. So I can't answer that question for you. But yeah, I guess, what would you say was the stigma with you when you were going to journalism school? You were in school and everything. Was there still a pretty big stigma in relation to the paranormal or any of that stuff? What was your specialty you were going for? How does that even work, I guess, when you're going to apply?
That was like not even like paranormal UFOs. That was not part of it.
Oh, that's true. Well, I was gonna say, but I mean, far as I'm saying your normal journalism that you were going for,
yes.
Were there people, I don't know, your classmates or whatever, that were mentioning some of the stuff outside of school? Like, was it something you at least talked about, or was it just, nope, that doesn't even get talked about here?
No, it just didn't come up.
Interesting.
It did not come up. Like, in the, I guess the further it would get is like talking about sci-fi movies, but not anything else than that. But there wasn't really any like paranormal talk or UFO talk at all.
Interesting. What was the focus then? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to make this boring for you guys. I'm not trying to make mainstream boring, but like, what was the focus? You're like, guys, we're going to talk about the same thing we've been talking about for 75 years. Like, what was the thing?
No, it's just, you cover current events and, news going on in the world. Whether you were going to, focus on local news, or you're going to try to get on cable news, or you're trying to get on like news magazine type shows.
Aw. There you go. Oh, T. West, thank you for that. And tell your husband thank you. Like I said, Jess Rogge gives out voice lessons, guys. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe she's starting a business now. So
maybe I am. No, I'm starting it now.
You heard it first.
BigWilly is my first client.
Heck yeah, it's been great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. That's been great. Yeah, so really quick then, let's hit on one other one, if you're up for it, if you can even talk about it. What's your take on... You hit on the control thing. So in your opinion, you're pretty concerned about control, of people being controlled. Do you feel like that's been something that's been going on for a while?
Yes, of course.
Okay. How would you apply that back to, say, the psychedelics and things of that nature? Do you think, in regards to, say, mushrooms and that aspect of things, do you think that there is an avenue there for research that needs to be done? Or is that a good thing that the government came in and shut that all down and made it the same as heroin?
I mean, they already researched it, back in the day with the MK Ultra stuff, I mean, they researched many drugs that would alter perception and mind. And, and guess what? We used some of those drugs like Ritalin. Ritalin was tested in MK Ultra as a mind control drug. Not a lot of people know that.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I was say hit on that a little bit. Far as what do you think? Was there any good that came out of MK Ultra?
Probably. They say a lot of the big proponents, and I didn't do my research before the show, so I have no names available.
We're just riding in a van chatting about this,
bro. Also a lot of the dudes that I think Timothy Leary. No, I don't can't verify that, so I can't say that. But a lot of the dudes that came out and were all like, "Hey, man, love, tune in, tune out." Shit like that they used to say, a lot of the big guys like back then, they were in the government research studies before they started, going out there. They call it the CIA Summer of Love, and then because the LSD was like lab made, right? And then that got released, and there was a lot of marijuana usage, and there was a lot of, mushroom usage. And what's interesting today is that, we do have, legal marijuana in many states, and then a lot of other states have medical, and other states also allow like CBD, and now the next movement going on right now is there's a lot of movement towards legalizing or decriminalizing magic mushrooms, psilocybin.
Yep.
It's all over the country. People are using it, microdosing for therapeutic things, So I don't know. So why the psychedelics? I don't know. I think it does open up people's minds. I don't know if that was their intent, but that's what happened, with these things coming out.
Well, I mean, I guess let's hit on that for a second with the psilocybin. It's pretty fascinating when you actually look into the history of it and recognize that without the mushrooms, as it were, there's a better term for the mushrooms. I'm forgetting the term here.
Psilocybin?
Yeah, but there's fungi. Fungi is the term I'm looking for.
Oh, fungus. Fungus.
It's existed for millions and millions of years. We're more closely related to it than any other living being at this point in time. And
we are mushrooms.
We really are. They say we are descendants of mushrooms.
Mushroom people.
Jacob, you're in here. I know Jacob Willett. He did a little bit. The one episode he was on here talking about some of the experiences that he had with it, and the people that seem to do it in a safe environment, if it can be studied and actually brought in, have these very almost, you could say, spiritual revelations, I guess you could say, on some of these trips. I'm not saying it's always good, but there seems to be a much more opening to them, and I just think it's one of those things that opens people's consciousness a little more and helps them connect and realize that we are more or less one with the world, the kind of the law of one, the idea that everything's connected, and experiencing that and recognizing that. And it's so fascinating. Like, there was one that I was reading on the other night, turkey tail, or turkey, kind of, they call it turkey tail, I think it's called turkey stuffing or turkey tail, because it looks like a turkey's tail, and the effects of that treated along with chemotherapy. And they don't want to use the words cured, but they've done that with some people. But there's no money in it. That's the problem. And whatever people's opinions on that is, but I think this stuff should be really studied and researched. I mean, mycelium, you guys already talked about in the chat. It's amazing, the consciousness behind how a tree reaches out. She knows, like, her offsprings, and if she feels she's being threatened by whatever spore or fungus that might be attacking her, they'll communicate and push their own young further out so it won't attack them. Like, it's just unbelievable to reroute energy and resources to them as needed. To me, that's, I don't know. Again, I think it just goes back to, we just can't talk to it. So because we can't sit down and have a conversation, we just throw it in this weird little.
Well, I guess if you were right, I guess what you're kind of getting at too is, like, if we think this is communication and consciousness, but this is between us as humans. Dogs communicate. When you communicate with your dog, it's like, my dog, like, is very expressive, and, like, she looks at me and she'll, like, kind of be like, this is what I want, and look at what she wants, and that's how she communicates with me. And so the tree communicates different with another tree, and animals communicate with animals, and they say, like, you talked about dolphins earlier, dolphins communicate with dolphins.
Yeah. It's, and even, you hit on that point, you bring up a good point too about what we're doing. Well, oh God, I always forget the numbers, but who cares? We're just hanging out here having a good time. We get these numbers wrong. I don't think anybody in the chat's going to kill us over it. But I think they said something like less than, is it 30% of all communication is done verbally? It could be more or less than that. But the idea that there's so much more going on with the way we move, and it's even more amplified in person, right? Then you're dealing with, like, auras and all this other energy that's going on. So the idea that we think that this is communication, I don't know, because, like you're saying, I mean, if you, with your own dog, or, like, I've had my kids before they can talk and stuff, there's communication.
Yes.
And it's, I don't know. I just think that if people went out and approached things with a little bit of reverence that everything's on the same playing field as us versus I'm above it, I think that things would reveal itself to us a little more sometimes. And that's just my own little personal opinion about it. And I do take a big issue with what happened. Oh my gosh, what was the big event back in the day, man? Like Jimi Hendrix was there. Like they were all just in this field. I should know this name.
Is that the no wait, Woodstock? You saying
Yes,
Woodstock?
thank you.
Yes,
I don't know why I
okay.
could. It's such a big name, and I couldn't remember it tonight. When that went down, they were talking about yes, you had people that were doing some harder drugs and stuff. But at that time, LSD and a lot of the stuff they were doing had not been worked on in a lab yet. It was a different compound and chemical makeup. But the idea that they were experimenting with psilocybin and mushrooms, and they were having these awakening things that were transcending race and culture and creed, and it was bringing people together. And you look at the rules and regulations that got rolled out in the war against drugs at the time. It's the same time that, Ronald Reagan rolled that out, and he also rolled out the whole fairness doctrine having to do with the mainstream media where we don't get to cover both sides. Yeah, that stuff all happens
and then
at
like
once.
Coke took over, because this history of is like Coke took over in the 80s.
And that wasn't by accident.
No.
Hit on it though. Tell him. You preach to him. You tell him why that happened.
No, it's the thing is, I mean, you guys should know, but like a lot of these things get pushed because the government pushed them out. Marijuana, yeah, we voted for it to be illegal too, but they had to let it happen too.
Yeah. Well, and then you go a step further and you look at what the CIA did, pumping it into the inner city, and that was a whole system that they declassified.
There used to be, like, people used to not believe, like, when people would say, no, the government put crack into a certain demographic and had them, like, sell it on the street. And, and these cartels and this stuff, like, man, it's like, when you get into the drug stuff, it's like, it's kind of scary, like, how much money is in that whole trade, and, oh my God. I mean, I'm like, yeah, you can get deep into that stuff, guys. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think it's wrong to cover some of it. And the reason why I don't think it's wrong is because, ask yourself right now, if you're in the chat or you're just listening, wherever you are in the cosmos, maybe it's 40,000 years later. I don't know how long this audio lasted. But if you're dealing with something right now in your life and you're realizing that we all kind of agree, but you can't talk about it, where is that coming from? What is the push behind something to limit just the idea that words? Because it went with, okay, expression was too far, music was too far, people connecting. Now it's getting to words are too far. So it's getting to this weird spot where we have to eventually call it out. And somehow it's been set up to where calling that out makes you the bad guy. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know
how
right?
we ended up there.
But, I don't know. I mean, right? I'm like, but no, this is the truth, like, the things that we call the government, it's like this big bad thing, but then even we're using this word, it's like whatever segment of the government that did that, it's the bad government.
Yeah.
And when you think they did that to their people, our people, it sucks, when you think about that. And so you start to think, well, what else did they do?
Yep. And I guess that's the rough thing, is that when you look at it, right, I feel like it always goes back to control of money, like in any of it. And it's just, if you have these free, independent, free thinking people that can sit around and just have these ideas or connect to something else. We were talking to a gentleman the other night on the Paranormal Chop Shop. Go check them at Sonny and Lewis's podcast out. They were talking to a gentleman, said he had a friend who's been doing this for a while, right? He was taking mushrooms and dosing and all that jazz. And he said that he got to a certain point from meeting some entities that I think was the fourth or fifth time. Yeah, which a lot of people talk about this, right? Meeting entities.
What kind of entity?
He didn't specify. It was like an energy source. Some people have different experiences where they actually see a face. Some don't. For him, it was just more of an orbish thing, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Where he knew it was there, but it didn't manifest in the way that you would expect you or I to be there, I guess. But what got weird was, he said that the fifth time he went, this entity told him, what are you doing here again? You've already learned we've already taken you as far as you can go. You need to go out and apply it now. Like, you don't need to be here. So it's very, And you have even like people down in South America that go on these ayahuasca trips, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll have group sessions, as it were, and they're experiencing. I could get maybe if you and I and our brains are just short circuiting and tripping out and whatever, we're seeing different things, but they're experiencing the same thing sometimes, at the same time,
Like a
the same
mass.
beings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe there's something that collective consciousness creating it. I don't know, but it's
Sure.
fascinating to
Maybe. Who
me.
knows?
Like, speaking of that, there's another show on Hulu. I would just feel like we're just talking about shows tonight. But Nine Perfect Strangers. I
But
don't know if you've watched that or not.
I just me and my I've been watching that with my sister. We just got like 4 episodes in. I'm
Okay.
like, holy crap, are there really places like this?
Yeah. See, but that's what I'm saying. Now that's even hitting like the Hollywood media aspect of where they're finally. This is. I really think, man, the next 20, 40 years, if we can hang in there, guys, there could be
Hang
some
in
really
there.
amazing, beautiful things coming out of some of this. But I do recognize that some of this needs to be approached carefully. I'm sure we're gonna
Oh,
have a
very
lot of
much
like,
so.
I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of shamans online, but like for $9.99 a month, I will guide
I
you on
can
these journeys.
But there are groups out there, I've seen on like Instagram, and you can find out like where they do like weekly Zoom calls and they talk about microdosing, and they kind of, talk, you talk with other people. So you can find them online. I don't have anybody off the top of my head, but there are groups out there where you can go talk to me. I don't think they cost anything. You just get to kind of get an idea of what you're getting into, because it is a psychedelic. This is not just like smoking a joint. It some people, I guess you need to be careful with your dosage. You need to be with somebody, that have a babysitter. That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it
Yeah.
alone.
No, I agree. I'll tell you what, Jess, because I forgot to ask you before we got going. I know you probably don't have all night here. So what I was going to do is, if anybody's interested, guys, I'm going to open up. I'll put a link if anybody's interested in hopping in. Please, if you could have earphones, that would help a lot, just for audio reasons. But if you're open to it, Jess, I don't know. I was going to say, I forgot to ask you off air, because I'm a professional. How long do you
Yeah.
have tonight? Do you have like a half hour left, or in case
I could do
anybody
a half
hops
an
in?
hour. Yeah, I could
Okay.
do half an hour. Yeah.
So what I'll do, guys, I'll put that link in there, and if anybody wants to hop in and ask some questions, if I get a couple people, we'll try to balance it out to where we can get you in and out. That way, if there's more than one. So yeah, I don't know. I think that you're doing a great job as far as over on the Fringe,
Thank
and
you.
what you're doing with the Rogue Report, calling. I know you go deeper there, guys. We can't. The platform we're on, so
Yeah.
we can't go as deep as we would like. But there's
That's
more to be
the
had.
radio. That's what the radio and audio is for. It's where you can like really talk. That's what I feel.
Which is weird, right? Hasn't that like flip flop? You remember back in the day? I feel like, well, I'm thinking of the days like, okay, I don't know if he ever reached as far as, like, if you know who this is. You probably do since you were a fan of it. But did you know the legend that was Paul Harvey? Paul Harvey back in the day, or is that just more of a local thing for me? He was
Maybe
like,
that's local. I don't know who that is.
I thought he was nationally syndicated, but his name
He
was
might
Paul
be.
Harvey. Yeah, he's passed away a long time ago now, but he was kind of localish to the area, so that was the reason we had a tie for him. But I just remember listening to those people on the radio, right? And like you said, there were certain words you couldn't say or subjects, and it's weird now that has become the area to have these conversations and podcasts. I still push podcasts.
Yes.
I'm like, listen, if you just want to go hang out with your buddy and chat and have a good time, that's a way to do it, because I don't know, man, some of this other stuff's gotten weird. It's gotten very, very strange. See, everybody else is saying they know the saying, that's the rest of the story. Have a good day. Yeah, so it's funny if people in the chat know who he was or who he wasn't. Is he famous? Listen here, mother trucker. But yeah, so for yourself then, do you think what is, I guess, your core message every time you go on to bring information to people? What is in the back of your mind besides bringing accurate information? Is there a larger message to be had, do you feel, in the whole of this whole thing for yourself?
I don't know. Things like I like to think is, be an independent thinker, and try not to like. That's one. And then, I call it a show for people who are kind of skeptical of the mainstream narrative, the story that's being told,
Yeah.
And it's these things I talk about too aren't like secret. They're not hidden, they're there. You just have to look in these documents and, look to the people who are saying these things and read about them, and it's kind of, I've always been very educational feeling with all my shows. Like I want people to like kind of learn something if they don't, or remind them of something they may have read before, research something. That's always kind of my goal.
Yeah.
Introduce a new author, introduce a new researcher or something. That's always my goal.
Right
Yeah.
on. And there's so much information by so many people out there, good information. So I appreciate that you're doing that. That's kind of what Joe and Ben, they love doing here, is that, there's always the big stories, the big names that will always be out there, the big abductees or experiencers, but they're like, hey man, there's a lot of other people out here experiencing this too, that just aren't the, status quo, here's who we got on the Ancient Aliens kind of deal. And I love that they've made such a beautiful platform for people to just reach out and talk,
Yes.
So Pat Breeze here. I can't call in, so what's her favorite flavor of Oreos? Now, this is a solid question considering there's only
Yes.
10,000 flavors these days.
Patrick the elf. Lately I did have lemon, and I really enjoy lemon right now. I would like to try the apple cider donut flavor, but my store
What?
is sold out, and I really want to try them. So I feel
That's a
like those
thing?
would be my favorite. Yeah.
When did that become a thing?
You have to hurry because I don't know if they were just like early fall. They might be moving into more like Halloween flavors soon. So you
There
have
you
to
go.
hurry.
Mo's asking important questions here. What's her number? And then, you guys, we put it at the bottom, all the information. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You can go follow her there. Obviously, he said he was just kidding. For those that are listening in audio version, too. Oh man, yeah. So I think too, if you, man, I'm trying to think of how, for your YouTube channel, far as when you go on with UFO Jane, do you guys do one like consistently, or has it been a little bit?
No, it's been a while. We've kind of talked. We haven't done it in months. I mean, it's just gotten too crazy out there with all the stuff going on that, that we both haven't had time too. So we talk about bringing it back here and there. So stay tuned on that one. It's been months, maybe 6 months since we've done an episode there.
Nice. Actually, she was just messaging me a couple minutes ago because I'd reached out to her a while ago, like before you, I think, or right around the same time, maybe, and she just hadn't been on in a while, so she messaged. So I was like, I gotta ask about this glurp thing. I'm telling you, so I'll ask that one more time in the chat. We'll give people a couple more minutes to see if anybody wants to tune in. Did anyone else experience this? And if you guys know who UFO Jane is, it's like her. I don't want to say the word mascot, but like her like he's there with her on the show. You know what I mean?
He's the resident alien of the show.
Mm-hmm.
He's Glurp.
Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, he's Glurp. Like he goes out to the conferences with her.
And I feel like it was definitely a show in 2010 to 14 era. It was like 2 seasons.
There is no show with Glurp, man.
I don't know. You should talk to her. She's your friend. Message her and be like, "Are you writing something? Were you writing something like planning on putting a show out? With the Mandela stuff. Maybe it already happened and we just forgot."
I'm gonna Glurp has a cell phone too. I'm gonna ask Glurp.
Ask
away. Are you based on I'll say like.
Just ask also too, is a TV show being made about you? Because I'm telling you this, and we've gone into some of the whole like Mandela effect stuff. I don't know what some people feel about it. Some people think it's all just a joke, and a lot of people get hung up on the stupid ones. Like, and I shouldn't say they're stupid because they would get you started. But is it Bernstein or Berenstein Bears? But guys, it goes so much deeper than that. It goes
so freaking weird, and sometimes, and there's a lot of. I was way into Mandela Effect. I had a pretty good guest on a few years back that was like Mandela Effect specialist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, SMQAI. I gotta repost that one.
Oh, was his name Brian Stavely?
I don't know his real name.
Because I feel like that's what his show used to be called. But if not, I
don't know.
You should look up Brian Stavely if you want to go like somebody who's covering consistently current.
Consistently,
yeah. Not just something that happened 10 years ago, which, those are important, but staying on top of it. I'll send you his email because
send me.
He'd be worth having on for sure. His information is accurate. It's not, made up.
Not goofy stuff.
Well, sometimes he'll cover goofy stuff, but not really. Yeah, he's so far beyond. That's his thing. He's like, guys, we're way beyond the Bernstein or Berenstein Bears or, this or that, beyond symbolism. Even though he acknowledges that it exists, what he is saying is like, another thing that I love that he does is he doesn't give you the 50-50. He'll just ask a question and be like, what do you remember? and then you're just pulling those memories from somewhere.
Yeah.
So if they're wrong, it's like, well, where did you get this memory from? You know what I mean? Like, I guess we could do a couple with you for the fun of it. I'll give people like 5 more minutes. That we don't make
Do
poor
it.
Jess sit here and listen to me all night. But
No,
okay, so
I'm into the Mandela effect thing.
Okay,
I'm like, I
well-
love it because I'm like, is it because these people are from different timelines? Do they
Right.
come from different universes? So in your universe, you remember it like X, Y, or Z. But in my
Mhm.
timeline or my universe, we remember it a different way. And maybe we can communicate, through the internet and we're all on different timelines. Who the F actually
Mhm.
knows?
Yeah. So with did you ever play Monopoly growing up? Like, we'll start with
Yes.
some really simple ones. Okay. If you had to describe the Monopoly Man from the neck up, like, I know you're into this stuff, so you probably know these answers already, but if you had to describe him from the neck up, how does he look to you? And for those in the chat as well, what do you guys remember?
I think he's got a little mustache, right? And then he's got a top hat, right?
Okay. Anything else?
Does he
Or
have
is that it?
Does he have a monocle? I don't know.
You don't
I don't
remember?
think he does.
You don't think he does? Okay. So I'll see what anybody in the chat says. It looks like there's a couple people tell you. That's fit. And Tammy says, sometimes I feel the Mandela has been talked about so much that now I don't even know what to do or remember,
Ooh.
That's fair. It gets very, very weird. Zero Cool says round head, mustache, and monocle. And also he threw on hat at the end.
Ooh,
Yeah,
hat,
so that's how I remember it. And if I had to bet, like if I was a betting man and they were like, hey, you have to do this one thing or the other, what was it? I would have said the monocle for sure. Like, that's the one that stuck out to me because I remember him with the money bag, right? He was like,
yeah,
running.
right. Isn't he with the money bag and
And
he's
it-
rocking and he has a hat on and he's got a little mustache.
Yeah,
No?
but I remember the monocle because he had like the chain was hanging off of it. But
But
that's
then
never
I could,
existed.
yes, but see, Space Cow here says it, and I was like, am I thinking of Mr. Peanut?
Yeah, him and Mr. Yeah, so Space Cow, you think that they both do, but apparently the Mr. Monopoly Man here has never had one. Ever. Never had it. It's just very strange. Like, and the other thing, like, also hit on that, staying on that topic.
Mr. Peanut does.
Yeah, Mr. Peanut 100% does. Yeah, it's weird. And then the other one that gets weird is the money symbol. So, like, staying with Monopoly,
Ooh.
like, how would you draw the money symbol, Jess? Like, if you're doing it right now, how do you draw it? And you guys put the money
Like
symbol
an
in the chat.
S with
Okay.
2 lines.
2 lines. Okay. I agree. That's what I remember. Ben from the UFO Garage podcast, he's kind of a big deal around here. Some people know him. He's small fry here in the chat, but it was Jim Carrey's impersonation in Ace Ventura when Nature Calls that confused me. Yeah. So it's funny because I believe he had the monocle when he did that. So yeah, Jess, look at your keyboard. How does the money symbol look?
Oh, it has 1 line.
Yeah, and that's what
One
Stephen Greer
line.
put. But see, I don't remember that. And so this is what like Brian Stavely calls leftover residue, where people that are remembering it differently. That's why like WWE wrestlers and all these guys had 2 slashes. Like, how would you write the cent symbol?
With 1 line.
With 1 line. That's what I was taught, right? Money was 2, cent was 1. Now it's reversed. Now
Anybody?
it's a C, and it's 2
With 2?
slashes. And the C is relocated. It's slightly changed now.
What?
Those are just simple ones. Like, this guy goes way deeper than this stuff. Like, way harder. We had him on like our show when we did I do with my brother over there, and he was on for almost 3 hours.
Holy
dude,
crap.
But you need it almost. You can do it on radio. You totally can. But it would almost help to do on YouTube because he could show, like, while he's doing it, he has the green screen. He'll ask a question, and then you're seeing it in real time. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with that? But,
no, it makes sense. Some things make sense to do on video too if they have a video presentation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he does. And he's into a lot of the human control stuff. He doesn't say he has all the answers. He just says that, listen, something's up.
Something's up, dude.
It goes really, like, I don't want to ruin them for some of these people because, like, it goes. Chad Smith, I don't think he's in here last night, but the money symbol one blew his mind. It really bothered him, like, the whole night.
It bothers me.
Oh, what about this one?
Let's see.
So she says, what is this one? It says, oh, I'm sorry. She was answering a question. So what about this one? I'll leave you with this one and I'll let you get out of here tonight. Did you watch Disney growing up? Like, did you watch any?
Yes.
Okay.
Some.
Okay. Do you remember, like, say, the 90s era Disney cartoons? when the movie would begin and they would do their presentation of Walt Disney's symbol, do you remember that
Yes.
process of what that looked like? Describe that to me in your words. What happens?
I remember. Okay, so like the intro for the movies, or the right? Wasn't it like Tinkerbell would come up and fly, and then like go like boom with her little
Mm-hmm.
fairy stick, magic wand, and then the castle would like materialize under where the fairy wand hit it.
Yeah. Do you remember, and I know this is weird questions I'm asking, I don't want to answer, I just want it to be your own turn, but do you remember,
Okay.
did she do anything when she flew out? Do you remember like a flight pattern? I know that's a weird question to ask, but do you remember what kind of flight
So
thing
she
did?
would. So she would go ding, and then she'd fly probably like towards off to the left.
Okay.
I
So
guess.
that's pretty much what I remember too. I remember her coming in from the right? If I'm looking at the
Yeah.
TV screen, she'd come in from the right, she'd fly
And
up
be
and
like-
she'd do like a figure 8 symbol over the top of the castle, and like you're
Yeah.
saying, sprinkle, right? And the fairy dust would reveal Walt Disney, right? And then she'd come back down to the bottom left, and then she'd fly away. That's never existed. That's never happened.
Where
Now
did
she
that
just-
come from?
I don't know, right? Because I mean, that's your memory, and that's a memory I share. But now she just comes out. She flies straight from the right side of your screen to your left. She looks back and she dots the eye. She doesn't do anything with the castle.
What's
Sometimes
the bloody?
there's been a couple updates where she'll shoot one like towards the castle and it makes the spark. But that whole
Yeah.
her flying around the top of the castle, it's never existed now.
Nobody has that. There's so many Disney nerds.
So-
They would know.
He had people write into him. So what he would do, and it's hard when you're asking a question like that, right? To do so, he said he asked people to like draw digitally, like, hey, just draw the path, the route that you remember.
Yeah.
And an unbelievable amount of people sent him that same flight pattern. And it's never
Wow.
existed. Now it's only ever been her flying out, doing the one thing, and that's it. And I do it no justice. Like, this guy does really good. I'll make sure I send you his email because it's
Please
pretty
do.
crazy.
That's nuts.
So, all right, guys. Well, I don't want to hold Jess up here too long. I know, as always, we have, let's see, what do we got on here? I'll throw it here on the bottom. We have Spaced Out Radio tonight. I don't know. Man, I should have looked this up. I should have been ready for Lynn. But Lynn Wellington will be on there. I don't remember who she has tonight. But you guys can catch them at 12 a.m. Eastern Central Standard Time or 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for you guys. Let's see. So John Hudson actually sent me something in regards to the money symbol. John, if you wanted, you could hop on. I don't know if you're busy or not, if you wanted to say hi to her, but he said that it has to do in regards to what font you're using on the money. So that's interesting. There are different fonts, and that is true. Yeah, I'm seeing one that has the 2 slashes, and then one that has 1 in single.
Oh,
So
yeah, interesting. My
Right?
keyboard has 1.
that's all mine has too. Because I remember when we did it, and he had me write it out. I was like, I got this. And then he said, look at your keyboard, and I was like, nah, that's weird, right?
So weird. Like, I'm looking at it like, weird. When did it do that?
Yeah. You know what? Okay, this is one last fun question I wanted to
For
ask you
sure.
from the beginning, and I promise I'll let you go. What are your thoughts, for the fun of it? What are your
Okay,
thoughts
ask me.
on like time travel and then that being tied into The Simpsons? What do you think he knows about the future? Because it gets weird. So what are your thoughts?
It gets weird, though, but it gets into that whole, like, is there, like, this kind of, like, consciousness, like, thought space, idea space, that, maybe some sort of space that people in the creative state are able to access. And sometimes when they're doing these things and making these stories, and that collective maybe sort of consciousness just kind of shows that event or something. Like, for example, they talk, there's a Simpsons where they go to New York and there's like, there's a 9 and then there's the Twin Towers, like in the drawing, and it's not part of this big part of the story, because I believe they're going to New York, but the imagery of the 9 and the 11 with the Twin Towers, things like that. Or earlier where someone mentioned the X-Files episode, like,
Yep.
are these predictive programming? Because these are things that those powers that the people in power have to tell us because that's what they're doing in some occulty way? Or are these writers like tapping into something where these things are going to happen anyways, and they just happen to include this part in their story, like The Simpsons?
Yeah, I think, and I could give it to where, like the one you're talking about, where if I'm remembering it correctly, it's actually just an image on a desk where it says the words
Yes.
in the newspaper, right? So, like you said, it wasn't
Yeah.
really like, it wasn't an in your face, like, guys, we're going to tell you this, right? But the ones that really bother me, and there's several, there's like so many of them. Last I checked, there were 23 confirmed, and in the year 2020 alone, they added
How
another
many?
9. I think it's like 34 now that are confirmed. Like, these happened back in the 90s, early 2000s, and it's stuff that's happening now. One of the big ones
Isn't that
being,
nuts?
it is. I mean, I don't even want to say his name out loud because who knows? I don't know if there's weird rules with YouTube anymore. But the
Yeah.
former president that we had, there's
Yes.
one that has the exact depiction. I get if it was close, but they had that exact depiction of him coming down the escalator. The person raising, I mean, they're side by side. They play the cartoon and they play the live feed. It is as
Like
if
the
someone took that picture, that video, and made it a cartoon. And that
What if
happened
they can
years
see?
before.
They can see into the future.
Maybe so that's where the one guy I was listening to, he's like, dude, I cannot remember does anybody in the chat know the writer of the Simpsons? I should know this, and I don't off the top
I
of my
think
head.
there's different people who have written it at different times, and sometimes they have different people come in and write these episodes. Because like when I was in film school, we had a couple people come in who had written episodes of The Simpsons, but they weren't like staff writers. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So
The one that really bothers me though, like the one that sold me, I was like, all right, I'm in 100%. This guy's either got a way of seeing the future or he is a time traveler. Was when Homer Simpson goes up and he writes the God particle out. He wrote out the Higgs boson. He wrote it exact, and I mean the exact equation. So you're telling me in a kid's cartoon, Homer Simpson, and it's like an episode where he gets, I can't even get hit in the head or if he gets bit by a spider, it makes him super smart. And I think this was in 99. He goes up and writes out the exact equation for the Higgs boson that we didn't discover until 2012 and took, I mean, a multitude of scientists and astrophysicists and all these different mathematicians to figure out. And you're telling me the writer he did work with an astronomer as a friend to help him do this, but he just happened to write the exact equation out? I mean, you could take the equation he wrote on this chalkboard in the cartoon, and that is the equation. What are the chances of Homer Simpson doing that? To me, it's just, I don't know. It's too on the nose, I guess.
for a cartoon, like it was like a primetime cartoon. Why does Homer know this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I don't know if they have like a little clip of it, and I will share it here. Okay. It looks like we have one person too that hopped in. I know we got about another 13 minutes here with Jess before she gets out of here. But so JME Patton, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for hopping in.
Wow.
Hello.
Can't believe I got in.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Hitchhiking out here. Listen, I'm driving
Nice
the
to
van.
meet you.
We're heading back towards the garage, but we're picking up hitchhikers. That's what always happens at the end. I like bringing people on. It's just an open forum, and this is a great way for us to, I get to see you guys writing, and we all hang out in the chats, and we, talk with each other, but to actually see each other in person, it's a great way to connect the community, I think.
I just wanted you to...
Are we breaking up on you a little?
Yeah,
Can you
it's
hear us?
breaking up.
Oh no.
You sound good. We can hear you.
Yeah, you sound clear, super clear.
I just wanted Jess to talk a little bit more about Project Mockingbird.
Project Mockingbird. I feel like, it's just kind of changed and it's still here. It's on the internet. And I mean, all it was studying it, right? And now it's amazing how little they can actually put out and these things get retweeted. And, they say it only takes like 11 users to push something on social media, and then it will get retweeted and pushed out. And then these ideas also get pushed out by bots now. So you can see like the Project Mockingbird thing is totally social media. Then you see the same type of post. And when people keep seeing the same kind of information, right, they keep kind of gets in their head, like when people are marketing stuff to you. So, staring at these social media posts, I think it's their new way of kind of control. And then when you go out there in real life and talk to people about these topics, people just repeat what they read online. So it's still 100% here now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very strange too how when Project Mockingbird, the way they got involved as far as tapping in on the mainstream media and kind of controlling, in a sense, whether they want to say it was or not, the information that was flowing out, not only to foreign entities, but I would say one would have to look at domestically here how the information is flowing out. That is one that, and it's not a conspiracy. You can go on the CIA database and print that PDF off and read all about it. But that's a great question there, Pat. And I definitely appreciate that. And I know Jess and I were talking about that the other day.
Yes.
Just messaging. I believe I was ranting so hard to you that night.
You ranted. Bad. It was it was like this much it was a full screen he sent me of a rant. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I wrote a book." I was like, "No, good rant."
So Pat, is there another question that you have in regards to either the subject itself or to you?
Well, I'd love to talk more, but I'm getting so much echo from you guys.
It's
very hard to understand you guys through my headphones.
No problem, brother. Well, we appreciate you coming on. If there's anything you want to say to Jess heading out here, feel free. And we really appreciate the support of the show and obviously the other shows that you support as well.
I just thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you for chatting with us.
Thank you.
Have a good one, brother.
You too.
Yeah. So do you get the, because this is one of the great things, you guys, too. If you check out Jess with the Rogue Report, you also, when you're doing your live broadcast, you also have your Discord, which I don't have that listed in the description, but people, if you want to check out that way, and through Spreaker too, that's a cool way they can interact with you, correct?
Yes.
While you're on the air?
Yes. While we are on the air, we have a Spreaker chat and we have a Discord chat. The Fringe FM also has a station chat, where people can come in and chat about the show too. So I have 3 chats that go on live during the show.
I gotcha. Really quick, too, just in case I got it wrong, John Hudson said, no, we have known the equation for 50 years. What was found is the 2000. Okay. Now, what I'd be interested to know is if the writer of The Simpsons knew the exact equation.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Because granted, that information was known and it was within that community for sure talked about. But if you go back, John, Jess did an episode, one of the first episodes I did for the gentleman here in the garage, and she covered some of this, not in relation to Homer Simpson, but the actual process of them bringing out. I know that it was discovered in the 70s. But the information necessarily wasn't out there free-floating for everyone. So I would be still, what are the chances that he wrote the exact equation? It's like, it's obviously it happened. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's a little on the nose. And that is one. That's just one, John, of the 30 plus that the Simpsons have. You guys can just type it in. Just go on and type anything on YouTube that's like Simpsons Predict the Future.
Yes, exactly.
No, check it out for yourself.
Totally did. So maybe there's hints, right? They're they wrote that because the Higgs boson equation meant something. So in their time travel-y thing, they have to watch The Simpsons to decode it, right?
Yeah.
Like 12 Monkeys or something.
It could be. But I do appreciate you checking that out for us, John, because that's the thing, too. I always tell people, if I get something wrong, hey, I will be the first to be like, hey, totally got it wrong, guys. So I appreciate you guys staying on top of it and looking stuff up for us on here. I feel bad for Ben when he runs the show by himself, and he doesn't have Joe there. Joe usually operates the chat for him, and then Ben focuses on whatever else.
Yeah, very nice.
I give Dave Scott and yourself a ton of credit, because when you're trying to do the show, keep up with them and share other stuff, I don't know how some people do it.
It's hard.
So crazy.
Man. I miss things in the chat all the time. I miss good questions because the chat, it moves. It's like boom, 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 boom. And then you're like, oh, I missed a question. You're trying to zoom or scroll up. More questions come in. But I love having the interaction of the live chat to go along with the show. It just, it makes it so much more fun.
Yep. And obviously, for being someone who usually is hanging out in the chat, I feel like when you get to interact with you, the guests, and then you get to interact with them, it's just, that's the one thing. We might rip on some of this technology and stuff that exists nowadays, but come on, it's pretty sweet. Come on, we're living in a great time in some sense.
It is. It's not all horrible. It's fun. Come on, guys. You think without all this technology, we would not be able to connect with like-minded people and be able to have these conversations? We'd be not able to connect. We'd be mailing people to a mailing list? Like, how would they do this before the internet, you know?
I don't even know. I don't think people cared too much. It sounds bad, but I think people have always cared, but you just weren't able to find your group of people. Like, let's take it back. You could really even say the 80s, right? Prior to the internet being available for everybody, you had to go find like a book club, or you had to find like a club to be in your area. You know what I mean? You were kind of limited by your general 100 miles that you lived in, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know how people used to connect besides like the big conferences and stuff like that. Now we're like, man, I'm just sitting in my home, like in my pajamas, just listening to Dave Scott or Jimmy Church or any of these other guys, or Ben and Joe, you know?
Yeah.
I keep cutting you off.
I mean,
I'm so sorry. I feel like there must be a small delay kicking in or something.
A little bit, I think. Sorry about that. I don't mean, because I'm like, am I hopping in or nope. No, it's weird because you can interview like people on your computer, you know, it's nuts. And you can talk to anybody around the world and you get a good video feed. I mean, this was not possible before, you know?
Tammy's answering. She says, well, we did have the party lines. I've heard of these. I heard they used to actually be illegal. I don't know if that's true or not.
Are they illegal?
Back in the day, because wasn't it like
I don't know.
one person would pay, to have the phone service, and then you could call and tie people in, even if they didn't have the unlimited minutes and all that jazz? I could be wrong. This is a little bit before my time, obviously, but I think if I'm not wrong.
I saw it on Isle of Lucy before, I think, where they have a party line.
Mm-hmm.
But like you pick it up and somebody else is using it, so I guess they kind of share it, right?
Tammy says not those kinds. Well, then what kinds are you talking about, Tam? Tammy, one day, I know we gotta let Jess go tonight, but one day you should get on here with us. You should come hang out. Go take a spin in the van. As we're almost bringing her back to park in the garage for the night here. But Tammy did have one question. I'll ask you, Jess,
sure.
and then we'll get you out of here. She wanted to know if you've seen Looper. I believe it was called Looper.
I have seen Looper. Looper contains some body horror, if you like, that I cannot handle. It's like it's good, very good concept, very great concept, right? But like, man, some gross stuff, man, that bothered me, man.
I have not seen that one. I don't even know that one.
Like, the guy is. Do you want me to ruin it for you? That'll ruin it.
Sure, go ahead. Ruin it. You guys, right now, here's the
spoiler. It's been long enough.
But
no, like one dude, right?
I have seen this. Never mind. I'm so
we're in the past, right? And then they start like
with Bruce Willis, right?
Yeah, and they start chopping the other dude like up in like the past, and like so in the future he's like, oh, his hands are disappearing, like his nose. It's horrible. It's horrifying. It's like disappears, like leg it's like, geez, man, horrifying.
So
but other than that, great. It was great concept.
So Stone Hobbit, welcome. I don't think I've ever seen you in the chat before, so welcome. It said, I was calling a friend, and I could hear other conversations, and oh my God, it was the local bishop talking bad. And then that Sunday, I went to church. So wait, so like, was it just, and Black Dragon called me out on it too, I guess it wasn't illegal, was it just like a big open line that you could just hop on, and you could just hear other people and like try to sift through the conversation? Like, I don't know how this works. Now, that movie, now that you brought it up, what pissed me off about that movie, spoiler alert. Okay, guys, big spoiler alert.
It's fine, I think so. There's like, I think it's been more than 10 years or something. I think we can talk about it at this point.
How it ends, okay, pissed me off. Because in that moment when he recognizes, oh, this is never going to end, this is the vicious cycle that will just continue, right? Instead of like, I don't know, blowing his hand off, which would affect his current older self, he's like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just going to end everything. And I was like, why didn't you just shoot your own hand off in that moment? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. And by the way, Stone Habit says no, that her line was just crossed. Didn't they say too that it used to be like the mice and the squirrels would get in the boxes back when they actually had the telephone, and they would like cross stuff and they would touch, and that's how they were like hearing other people's conversations?
Man, I have no idea. Is that what mice do? Mice are surveillance mice?
Oh my God, no, I'm not saying that.
These little mice are like inside of the phone thing. They're like, here, check this out.
What was the cartoon back in the day? The aristocrat, not the aristocrats. Do you remember the mice? They were like investigators.
Yeah, the rescuers, right?
Thank you. That's it. That's totally what's going on. It's the rescuers.
You heard it here, surveillance mice.
That's right. Oh, man. Well, Jess, I want to thank you very much for coming on and hanging out.
Thank
Let's
you.
park the van back in the garage, let you get out of here. And like I said, next week, guys, we'll have Christina Gomez in here, and we'll be hanging out with her and chit-chatting. So, Jess, one last time, obviously I got your information in there, but where can we find you and anything you want to add before we let you go?
You can find me at theroguereport.com. My show is live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on fringe.fm. If you head over to theroguereport.com, you can, find links to the show and to my social media. I do have Tommy Chong coming up real soon, and I also have David Icke coming up real soon. So those are going to be really exciting show, guys. Big guests. So follow me on social media, The Rogue Report. And I want to thank you, BigWilly. This was a great, fun conversation. It was a great way to spend a Saturday evening.
Oh, heck yeah. Thank you for coming and hanging out. And anytime you ever want to come back and do cross episode or anything like that, let me know.
Yeah, we gotta
more than willing to. You just blew Ben's mind. He wasn't in here when you said that earlier. I don't think you understand. I mean, people kind of say Ben and Joe are the Cheech and Chong of the UFO community. I don't know if they take offense to that or not. I don't know. I feel like they're owning it. But they're kind of known for that. I feel like Joe would love having a conversation with them. So everyone's telling you, thank you, Jess, so much for coming and hanging out.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Thank you, BigWilly. Thank you, everybody in the chat who had a wonderful time. And we got to get in touch and we'll do some sort of crossover show. I think that'll be fun.
For sure. You got my information. So have a good one, Jess. I will talk to you later, okay?
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. Bye. Alrighty, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in and hanging out with me tonight as we took a trip in the van to talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird. Tonight it was a little more conspiratorial, but I want to thank you for coming in and doing that. I want to mention one last time, guys, if we could. I know I let you know in the very beginning, but it's important to talk about this. Manscaped. Guys, look at this. Cleared for takeoff. Ben, this is so great. Your balls will thank you. And I want to say, too, if anybody wants to know what the promo code for that is, all you have to do is type in UFOGARAGE, all capitalized, and you will get 20% off of all your total, your purchase, I believe. I could be wrong. If it is, Ben, let me know. So, guys, treat your family jewels like the jewels they are. Get Manscaped. Don't play around. Bring precision to the game, because your balls will thank you. Once again, that's UFO Garage, all capitalized. Type it in. Let us know what happens. We're excited. And maybe one day, I think there'll be a kickback one day. I think it's going to pay off for you, Ben. All right, guys, I'm going to punch in some music here. If you guys want to just throw up some stuff in the chat. I've never tried this before, so if it goes incredibly wrong, hey, you'll be here to witness it. So let's try this out. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in. And as always, please stay curious and keep it weird.